Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So this is your host Vineet Nag. I'm Director of Marketing at InfoStride, and we are thrilled to have you here today as we dive into this exciting world of Flutter, Firebase, and Cloud Functions. We will also reveal the secret sauce of context menu magic. But before we get started, let me share a quick story. A few years ago, I was just like many of you, curious and excited about mobile app development. I had a dream of creating seamless, responsive apps that would make people's life easier. Little did I know that Flutter, Firebase, and Cloud Functions would be the key ingredients to turning that dream into reality. Let's look at that today. So let's get started with our agenda for today. Now we're going to talk about what's in the store for today's webinar. So we have Deepak over here with us, and Deepak is our head of delivery at InfoStride. And we are delighted to introduce you to Deepak, who is also a renowned expert in app development and has a wealth of experience working with Flutter, Firebase, and Cloud Functions. Their insights today will be invaluable. Deepak, I'll give the floor to you. Please start with your introduction and then we'll start on the topics.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Vineet, and thank you everybody for joining. So, Deepak, this side associated with the organization InfoStride from like over a decade, and with the mobile application development. So, it's like as I have almost worked with all this mobile development frameworks so far, and as of now, you can say. Like his experience and journey so far with the mobile application development is always surprising and always push you to go to the next level to develop application from for all the domains, which includes not only having the API integrations but also working with the third party devices or third party integrations. So it's been exciting journey so far, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us today, and we are excited to have you on board. And we can't wait to explore the magic of Flutter, Firebase, and Cloud Functions with you. Let's get started. So we'll start with the points. Deepak, we'll talk about how we can revolutionize app building and also discover how to revolutionize your app development process using Flutter, Firebase, and Cloud Functions. Can you
Okay.
please talk about this?
Sure, thank you. So when we talk about mobile application development, it's always, like as there are many frameworks or many, like as you can say, the application service providers who provide tool and services, we can develop application. So when we typically or specifically talk about Flutter, so Flutter launched like as 6 years back. So I'm being associated with Flutter since it was in beta mode. So journey so far is very exciting. Every day there are new challenges. And one thing about Flutter that separate it from other development environment is like as a it's a hybrid platform, same like as a React Native, Ionic, Xamarin. So these are also the popular platform. But how Flutter is separated or differentiated from these platforms? When we talk about mobile application or native Android or iOS application, so all these applications work with the 60 fps frame per second. So to achieve or that performance, initially PhoneGap came into market, but it could not achieve because it was purely on HTML, CSS, JavaScript. After that, in 2015, React Native came. Though the performance of the mobile application was good with the React Native, but it could not achieve that 60 fps frame per second delivery comparative to native Android and iOS. But with Flutter, when it came to market, so it was able to achieve this performance gap, which we have faced or I have myself faced when working with React Native and PhoneGap. So and along with this other advantages in terms of the performance, so here we can not only develop application for Android, iOS, but we can same time with the same code base, we can develop application for 6 platforms, which covers Android, iOS, Linux, Windows, Macs, and web itself. So how it has been revolutionized? So I would say like as a so Flutter is a framework that is being launched by Google, and Google also has one of the most popular framework that we or services that we call Firebase services. So with Firebase services, there is a module that we call Firestore. So Flutter has a direct integration with Firebase, which developers can develop applications using Firestore as an database. So there is no dependency on API servers or where we have to develop API separately. We can simply use Firestore as a database, Flutter as an application development framework, and Dart as a technology in order to write the code. So this has given a mobile developer enough flexibility where they can handle the backend by themselves. They can develop the front end by themselves. So we can say, or simply this after with Flutter and Firebase, we can say mobile applications developers, in other terms, are full stack developers where they handle the backend by themselves, they handle the front end by themselves, and they are also at the same time developing application for the web, for the Linux, Macs, and Windows, which we think of with other platforms. We have to write a separate code for web. We have to write a separate code for Linux app, Mac app. So I think with all these features, we can definitely say that Flutter has revolutionized and also adding more and more, flexibility for the developers to write once and run everywhere. So I think
Thank
this.
you for sharing your insight. Now, just one thing, does that help in costs of an application development in any way?
Of course, I think that's a very good question, Vinny. So, because while developing application, let's suppose if we talk about native, so we have native Android developer. When we have to develop application natively, we have to have 2 developers separately working on the same application. And the same time, we need the backend developer also. So tomorrow, if there is any update comes in the or we have to add more features, so definitely both the developers would be required in order to develop that or in order to incorporate all those changes or adding new features. But when it comes to Flutter, so a single developer who would be handling the application itself can change once and it will be deployed for both Android and iOS. And if there is a web and other platform, so it can be deployed on those platforms too at the same time. So in this way, we are not only reducing the cost, we are also reducing the chances of errors as well. Because sometimes when we talk about specifically the mobile application, it happens. If application works fine on Android, but sometimes we face issue with iOS. So while we writing a code for as both the apps with using single source code or source code base, then we can also prevent or avoid the chances of platform specific errors. So which has even reduced the cost, but also have increased the reliability of a stable working application.
Thank you. I think that makes more sense now. And any further tips and techniques to master the Flutter techniques, like how people can create stunning apps with high performance, which can stand out in the market?
Yes, of course. Because when we talk about hybrid, there is always a myth. So there was a well-known saying while as I have started learning this hybrid platform, when people don't have time and money, then they should go for hybrid application, because the time PhoneGap was there, the Cordova was there, they were purely built on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So they were using a bridging to connect to the native code. So by that time, I have myself seen as the performance was too low. But considering the certain features, ahead of time compilation in Flutter, Flutter also uses no bridging between or connecting while communicating to the native code. So which has definitely improved performance, but there are some metrics or key metrics that we can, follow in Flutter if while developing the applications, because Flutter, while we use Android Studio VS Code, we can use these frameworks while developing applications, but there are profiling tools which help us to figure out how much time a page loads, how much time, like as a function calls. So by doing these techniques, like as it definitely help us improving the way of writing code. But the most important thing in Flutter, which gives, like as when we talk about performance, is reusability. Everything in Flutter comes as a widget. So even the application itself in Flutter, we can call it as a widget. So widget is more like is if let's suppose we have 10 pages in the mobile application. So, and we have same sort of or same kind of button that is you getting used on every page. So we can just create a common single component and we can use it on all the 10 different pages. So this approach even has reduced the code as well as improve the performance. And if I give you, like as recently I was going through a blog and I came to know, like as Google Pay, which was initially being written in Android, like as for native Android IO separately. So they have reduced or they have changed to Flutter. So it has reduced the number of lines of code to the half. So let's suppose before it was 1 million, so now it's 0.5 million. And now even they have reduced, like as the team members to the half as well, because now only a single developer is able to handle the module for both Android and iOS. So which has even given them the flexibility of keeping the team minimal, achieving the performance with same as native, and getting the desired results with the minimal efforts.
Wow, that's really great insights about the app development. Now, if we talk about data management, how is the seamless data management works? How can we harness the Firebase real-time database capabilities for seamless data management and synchronization?
Right. See, that's a very important question, because every application, if not specific to Flutter, but when we go with any platform, even it's a web or mobile, data management or state management is the most important aspects. And when we talk about the applications which need real-time synchronization, so I haven't seen services like as the real-time database or Firestore database. So I haven't seen services like this, because they provide a real-time synchronization. And considering like as the compatibility between the Flutter and Firebase, I find it like as before Google has launched Flutterfire as well, because they are best in synchronization. So real-time database, here I will talk about two things, like as the most important modular services of Firebase. It's a real-time database and it's a Firestore database. So real-time database, initially they have launched, and later on the extended version of real-time was Firestore database. So real-time database is very good when we talk about the applications which don't have a complexity, or you can say many-to-many connection. So it's more like as a tree lab kind of structure, where we have a top node, we have a child nodes, and which is very good for one-to-one chat. If user really want to have quick applications which involve one-to-one chat, then they can go with the real-time database which provide real-time synchronization. But later on, because when talking about developing an full-fledged application, so or Firebase has launched Firestore as a database service. So what this service is all about, this is very interesting thing, because now after learning this, developer can say they are a full stack developer, which now I call to myself after learning Firestore end to end, because here everything is being designed in the form of collections, and every collections we have documents where we store the data. So these collections can have sub collections as well, and they can also store the complex data as well, because it's a many to many relationship. So it's being recommended